What I've been seeing a lot lately, and I'm sure you've seen this well, is the rise of vibe coders who, they'll have some catchy title, vibe coding every day, trying to make $1 million app or $1 billion business. And when you watch these videos, they're using Tmux or they're using some GUI that they built, and they're just running 16 plus agents at once. I think the creator of Code, Boris, I was reading, uses 16 concurrent agents at once. And what I hear from them is they say that this is the skills as an agentic engineer that you'll need going forward, is how to just orchestrate all 16 and have them all communicating together and running tasks together. Is this really a skill to learn here is my question. I mean, even orchestrating, like, for example, using Tmux, like having 4 agents running doing 4 tasks, it gets kind of overwhelming and you're not moving as fast as you would probably expect to be. So, what are your thoughts on kind of having these, you know, dozens or even like 100 plus sub agents running at once during your workflow?
Yeah, that's certainly too much. I couldn't imagine 16 or 12. I could imagine 8. But the real thing, like I made my own GUI for this as well. I can't imagine having more than 2 agent processes occurring for a project at a time. I can understand working on 4 different repositories with 8 different chats open and kind of simultaneously going through that. But 8 chats or 10 or 12 or 16, like you said, for one project, even with work trees or anything like that, you're just going to screw everything up. So
I mean, well, yeah, what could they possibly do on one project having that much, they call it agent swarming on the project. I mean, how much benefit are you really getting from that instead of just using maybe 1 or 2 different agents to do 2 different tasks at a time? I mean, can you even realistically orchestrate that many people or that many agents at once?
I don't think you can, man. It's just all grift. People want to sound like they're doing the cool thing. Maybe they're selling courses on it. I don't know. It's all
Yeah,
grift. And
that is interesting. I think it looks good, and when you see a screen with that many terminals running, it's similar to, when you see stock traders and they have those massive, massive screens on their desk, and you're like, "Holy crap, this guy is
Mhm.
doing some serious trading or something." It kinda gives that effect there. It kinda has the veneer of you being this, genius level agentic developer using that many subagents. But the creator of Claude Code says he's using these concurrent workflows at once. And I'm just trying to understand, if he's doing it, is he doing it because it's actually helpful, or is he doing this because him saying he works with 16 concurrent agents going to make other people promote content doing the same setup?
It's that because I would be curious to understand his review process of the code. I mean, when I'm prompting and I'm doing stuff, which is all the time, I'm probably reviewing the code 80% of the time and then prompting 20%. And I think some of the better engineers, they're probably in that ratio as well. But if people are just 100% vibing, and they don't know what they're putting out across 16 chats, nothing's going to work right.
I agree. It becomes overwhelming. So, with that, I want to talk about an application we built for a client. We'll leave the client unnamed, but I want to get into your workflow for this. So, to give everyone some context, I mean, it's an enterprise level application that has multiple roles, tons of access checks in there, a lot of functionality, tons of customizations, essentially to give survey and to get data in the medical field. And we did it for a price tag that is honestly unfathomable to happen 5 years ago. It would have been probably quadruple the price. So I want to talk with you about kind of the setup and the process flow you did to build this project.
Well, it kind of comes down to the more that you gain experience, you know how to do the next one. So we had a project previous to that, which was more of like our playground for what
Mhm.
led to this next one. And I think that that previous one we did well, and it allows us to do this next one even better because we established certain patterns, workflows, stuff we want to do. You have to like make a lot less mistakes along the way. So for us, what we usually do is we take a look at the actual business logic of what we need from the client, and then we understand that through several consultations, that's going to kind of wire up in a certain way. I think we did that really well. Each week there is revisions, and that slowly changes the scope
Mhm.
of the code and everything like that. But that's where it comes to that review process. If someone's just vibe coding this stuff and they don't really know what they're doing, every new change that comes in, they're just gonna hope and hope and pray that the prompting's just gonna figure it out. But you have to really know the architecture of your system, and I think we did that better than ever this month.
Absolutely. Is there skill in just vibe coding?
Well, there's skill in building a context window, knowing when the context is
Mm.
getting clouded, when to reset, how to warm up the context to prep for a really hard problem. That takes skill, and there's like an art to that. But I think the art is really the review process more than the prompting. Because when I'm generating code, 50% of it, I'm like, nope, that doesn't look good. It's not extensible enough.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem
not
like it.
modular enough to. Yep.
So then you go, all right, change the code. And that's where having that foundational knowledge of what to do, helps you. If you're just vibing, it's not going to work.
Mhm. So speaking about how AI is so quick to generate code, so quick to write things, so quick to understand systems, my experience with this project is when I hopped on to add some stuff to it, I just had to take one review of the code base manually. And once I had that review, I just have a process where every time I'm sending out a prompt to do changes, it will explicitly go into kind of a plan mode where it's going to show me, okay, this is a file I'm going to change. I'm changing these lines of code, and then have that review process there that says, does this want to change? And then that's when I'll spend, 30 seconds looking at it, seeing what it is, and then make the changes there until I finally build up the change, and then I implement the change there. And the interesting thing is using Opus 4.6 here, a project like this that again would have cost so much to do just 5 years ago, and how much you would have to understand about the project. A project that just has some customizations, some user and role management, some other bespoke things added into it. It honestly is a piece of cake for Opus to understand the project in general. It really is. And that kind of wowed me how quickly it is to understand the project, understand the flow. But like you said, the review process is really where the skill comes in. And that's why I think us developers are just going to be 10xing, 100xing into the future. So, with all that being said, what I kind of want to ask you is, do you think that these types of projects are just going to grow in complexity and the price will be driven down? Because again, we said that this five years ago, we could easily have charged 4x the price. Now it's right here. Do you think that within a couple years, all of a sudden what's going to happen is, oh, now, an enterprise level application, now this is you're going to get to even another level of complexity within these apps you develop, and then at a price that gets even lower?
Probably. Yeah. And also, this is another thing. The client expectation for what they want done is also increasing because they have access to these tools now too. So they can go on Lovable or V0 and like, hey, Art, I want a website, I want this thing. Maybe it's all mock data and there's nothing real, but they can see that they can create it themselves. It's like, oh, well, I made it already. Now can you just make it work for a few $100s? And so there's that disconnect there that is also occurring.
I'm very excited to see where this goes in the future. I'm very excited to see, as these models grow, how much we'll be able to actually get done and the velocity of that. Um, One thing I've been doing a lot of lately is just using AI to empower me to kind of, I've coined this term from a video of mine, a comment on a video of mine, super learning. Do you do you think that super learning, kind of just using AI to dive as deep as possible into a different subject, like, do you think that's what's going to be the differentiator moving forward? Is, yeah, anyone could come in and vibe code, anyone could go on Lovable, anyone could build these applications, but what happens when something happens in the app that you can't figure out, or you want to get into an architecture or build something in a way that AI doesn't do in the plant phase. It's not going to figure it out. You have to explicitly tell it how to do it. We talked about the skill in vibe coding. There really is none. The skill is from the review, and the review comes from you having deep knowledge of what's going on in your application. And the more and more we use AI, the smart developers are going to be learning more and more and more. So into the future, everyone's going to be more empowered to build more amazing software. Do you think the real differentiator is going to be whoever has the deep knowledge of all these different things and knows how to architect, knows how to do this review process that you talked about there? Do you think that is the thing to bet on now moving forward with this agentic development? Agentic engineers in a sense. Like, is that their best bet? Is just to have their heads down and learn, or is it to just keep using these models in vibe coding?
You got to learn. For me, I always wanted to be a programmer, but I found it so inaccessible because my brain just didn't work that way. I could mentally think about the problem in steps, but when it came to the syntax and memorizing that, it was hard. So when ChatGPT first came out, like the first day, all I did was just use it for code. I was building CMSs, doing Three.js stuff, going crazy. And so I took it as like an educational tool from the beginning. And if you see enough AI generated code and then mapping that to the problem you solved, you build that connection. So more than anything, it's the people who are really curious and want to actually learn this. I think we see a lot of people who are just grifters and they want to sell stuff, make money, and they burn out. When it comes to debugging that issue at 2 a.m. when something's broken and you got to apply a hotfix to your database or something, those people aren't really going to be too interested. They're not curious. You got to be curious about the problems. And through that, you'll just be massively cracked at everything because now we have the capacity to have solved so many types of problems that your years of experience go up. Just think about all the code that you've touched, just recently. These would have taken years to build these systems, but now we can do it in months. So your levels of experience has kind of gone up.
I really think that what's going to stand out in 5 to 10 years is it's still going to be the knowledge. We're still not going to have, think about it like this. If these LLMs are able to be trained with the most compute in the world, they're trying to spend trillions of dollars on OpenAI is on compute costs, on fine tuning cost, training cost. If it comes to a general intelligent agent that could do everything, then you have bigger things to worry about than programming, in my opinion. You have definitely bigger things. But until we get there, even if it's even possible to get there, doing this super learning, consuming as much as possible, now a year of learning 5 years ago is now 3 years of learning, I would say it's equivalent to, with how much you could consume, with how much things are going forward.